I'm Lisa Linfield, CEO of Southern Pride Wealth and founder of Working Women's Wealth. And I'm going to be talking to you today about FIRE, Financially Independent, Retire Early. Now, I'm not one for big acronyms, nor am I one for fads, but this one appeals to me for the not obvious reason. And that is because with the word retire, it includes the concept of financially independent. And for me, financial independence is not an end destination, like people think retirement is. Financial independence is the ability to generate your own income regardless of your circumstances. And that is a freeing, liberating state of mind for all of us to be in. Why? Because these days jobs aren't secure. And it is something that all of us don't want to face, but we could end up without our salary at any time. And so financial independence is a sense of confidence that regardless of what happens, you are able to generate your wealth. I have a client who, when discussing this concept with him, he said, it's no problem. If they fire me, I will just restart my old business, get in touch with my old connections, and generate the revenue I need before I find a permanent solution. Now that's a confidence that means that you're not taking whatever someone gives you, but are knowing that you could leave, walk out anytime and be okay. Now let's talk about income, because a fundamental portion of being able to generate your own income is understanding that there are multiple sources of it. There's an expression that talks about dollar millionaires having 7 different sources of income. Now, I don't necessarily think that all of us need 7 sources of income, but it's an important concept to get, that we should never be reliant upon one source of income. And there are 3 that I want to chat to you about today. The first one is that you trade your time for money. That's what most of us as employees do, is we give the company our time, they give us money. And the challenge with that is that you are restricted to the number of hours that you can work. So people, for example, like doctors, are highly restricted in what they can earn, because if they're not seeing a patient, they're not earning. And that concept of trading time for money is usually where most of us start. The next and middle kind of portion of money is selling a product. And the whole thing about selling a product is that it requires you to set up time to create the product or find the distribution mechanisms or whatever it is. But then once that product is up, all you need to do is master your sales and marketing, and I say all very lightly, and you're able to sell it. And these days, it is a fantastic thing of the internet is that all of us are able to sell information products. So right now, this video is an information product, a training course. If you're a chief knitter, you can teach people how to knit, starting from beginners knitting on scarves. No matter what you're doing, you're able to share your wisdom and people are prepared to pay for it. And because of the fact that we all live in a connected world, none of us has to rely on only the people in our village like the old days. So anybody with anything to share is actually able to find someone in the billions of people out there that will buy your product. The other day I was looking at my podcast, and those stats show me that people in 62 different countries have listened to my podcast. Who would have thought? Me, a little South African, teaching people in Israel, in Iran, in Ecuador, in the Philippines, you name the country, Russia. I have taught someone, somewhere, something. And all of us can do that. And lastly, there are investments. Now, mostly what happens is that people generate wealth from either selling their time or selling a product. Then they put those 2 sets of income into investments. And the thing about investment as a source of income is that it's theoretically fantastic. You snooze and the shares grow and everything's wonderful. But too often, I'm coming across older people who have invested for 20 years and have got less than 1% return. Why? Because they put a pot of money in an investment and assumed that it would just do its thing. They didn't check for fees, they didn't check for performance, they didn't check for anything. And especially if you have old-fashioned products from 20 years ago, it's highly likely that the fees that you've been charged are criminal. And so I would really say to you that investments is not a passive form of income. You have to check your investments and you have to hold the people that you are paying accountable. And yes, it doesn't matter where you are. You are paying someone to manage that money, either through management fees on the actual fund or because some financial advisor or broker or salesperson sold you that product a long time ago and has been earning money off your retirement funds for a very long time. Hold them accountable. There's no such thing as any money that you earn that you don't need to work for. So I'd like for each of us to go and think about, how could I earn money in any one of those three categories? And my absolute imploration to all of you is that, especially if you're after the age of 50 years old, that all of us should be thinking about what is our next almost side hustle that we can do when we retire. Why? Because regardless of whether you have all the money in the world or not, people being forced to retire by companies at the age of 60 means that we've got a really young bunch of people leaving the workforce with an enormous amount of knowledge and wisdom that are suddenly no longer able to work. And I've got a client retiring today actually, and one retiring in 2 months' time that are being forced retired by financial institutions. And all of them say, I'm not ready to retire. And I don't know about any of you, but if you watch enough people go through retirement, you'll know that it's not just the income that is the challenge. It's also keeping the brain active and keeping a sense of purpose and a sense of excitement in your life that you actually are contributing meaningfully to the world. So when you are financially independent, whether you retire early or not, retirement is a phase that you should love, that you should be able to be financially independent. Know that you can generate income, but be able to work whenever you want, wherever you want, and on things that make you happy.